Welcome to the Dr. Remina Panjwani Show, where we're optimizing wellness together. I am your host, Dr. Remina. Today's guest is Courtney Bannan, who is a distinguished attorney, law professor, author, speaker, entrepreneur, and a certified yoga instructor. Courtney shares her journey from a high-stress legal career to discovering yoga and how it transformed her approach to conflict resolution, client communication, and personal well-being. Whether you're a lawyer, healthcare professional, or simply someone looking for more harmony in your day-to-day interactions, this conversation will inspire and guide you towards a more intentional and grounded way of living. Welcome back to another great episode. Today I have my lovely friend, the amazing Courtney Bannan. She has such an interesting story, and I can't wait to dive in deep and share with her. So, of course, she's accomplished a lot. It's not every day that you find an attorney that's also an entrepreneur and has a practice of mindfulness and wellness. So, let's just jump right in. Courtney, let's tell everybody, if they don't know you yet, who you are and how you got here.
So my name is Courtney, as Remina said. I got here because of my great interest in being as successful as I can in my profession, finding that people often get burned out. So I was looking for some ways to keep myself going and find some energy, and absolutely got addicted to health and wellness. It became, I want to call it a hobby, but it's really a lifestyle. And I made that choice to become even more so when I got my yoga certification back in 2011, after my father had passed away, and I was looking for something to kind of make myself feel better. And I discovered meditation, and yoga was probably the thing that saved my life. It was my way of going through the grief and letting myself sit in the grief without that excruciating pain, because I found a way to harness it and focus it into something that calmed me, instead of, drinking wine or doing all of the other typical things that I probably would have done had I not discovered yoga. And the feeling of empowerment that I had from being able to control my breath and my body and get through life and get through the grief was so empowering that I wanted to share it with everybody. So I started incorporating all of these amazing principles into my daily life and trying to educate others on how they could do the same.
That is so amazing. And you have gone through a lot. Everyone has their life story. And what is beautiful is you found a way to heal through it, right? A lot of times especially today, everybody wants to get that bandage approach, right? Let's just move on. Let's just push it under, but it surfaces. So grief is just one of those. And it gets you, and it's beautiful how you found a way, a calling to heal through it and help others.
Yeah, it was a really difficult time. Of course, it is for everyone who suffers a loss of a parent or a loved one. And it was just a place to fill that space of emptiness and learn how to sit down with the grief, because you can't deny it. If you don't let it in, you're just going to prolong your healing process. And it never goes away. You just kind of have to make room for it. So I kind of made room for it next to my yoga. And when I would meditate, that was my way of speaking with my father. I would meditate, and I would start off by thinking of all the things that I loved about him and all the things I missed about him. And I would talk to him in my head. And then, for me, like when I meditate, I imagine myself kind of falling backwards off of a cliff into nothingness. And then the nothingness would take over. And that was a great escape from the grief without actually denying the grief. I was letting myself sit in it without that pain. And it just became very addictive to practice the yoga, to do the meditation, and feel like I was doing something about it without denying that it was there. I was making room for it, making space for it, and learning how to coexist with it.
And you're a busy, not only mom, but you're also an attorney. And blending both worlds, you hit such an important note right there. I hit a big topic of burnout, especially we're women, men too, but we have demanding, not only society, right? Everyone has a demanding job, but especially with advanced professionals, not always can you find that the blend, right? But you just have to be intentional about it. And every day you have to be intentional. So before reaching burnout, what did you feel? And how did you know that was also contributing? Like you needed to look outside of what conventional states and outside of what like your profession is making you do. How did you get to that point?
I got to that point when I realized the one thing. So I kind of like had a little talk with myself and thought, what is the one thing that I did as a kid that made me lose time, where I would look up and 2 hours pass? And that was always playing outside. So yoga became like playing outside to me. And I would go to the beach in the morning, watch the sunrise. I would read my book. I would pray. I would do meditation, watch the sun come up. And then I realized my whole day was amazing because I had an hour of playing outside. Anything else that happened for the rest of the day, I was like, oh, whatever. Or I would just dream about the next day where I was going to be on the beach and I could hear the waves. Like, it's just really kind of, it's soothing. And then when you start really getting deep into practice, and I went deep into practice. I mean, I studied the Yoga Sutras, I studied mudras, and yes. Like that was when I got to India the first time, I felt like I was home for the first time. I loved it. And I really, really embraced the learning process. And I came back a completely different person. And I liked that. I kind of was in awe of a lot of things about life and human nature. And when I came back, I never went back to being the person I was before, which was great because that person was a overstressed mother of babies. I mean, I went through law school. When I started law school, I had a toddler. I was pregnant. So by the time I graduated law school, I gave birth in the middle of my first year, went full time straight through, didn't take time off. I gave birth to my second child on my spring break and I went back. I didn't miss class. Like I went back with staples in my stomach from the C-section, sciatic nerve was out, hobbling and dragging my books in a cart because I couldn't lift anything. It was crazy. But after all of that, I really needed to reset and recheck myself. And that was how I did it. I did it through yoga, but that overachieving personality of mine is like, if I'm doing this, I'm getting certified. I want to be a teacher. I'm going to open a school. And I did all of that. And I used to teach, karma yoga. So everybody would come and they would pay it forward. So I didn't charge for the class. Anybody could come and they had to do a good deed or donate money to charity. So I felt like, wow, this is really good. But then when I started really talking to clients and people that I was working on legal stuff for, that mindfulness just started to creep right into how I was doing everything. And I thought, wait, there's something here. There's something to this because who you are at your core is going to come out in how you do your job. And I think a lot of people probably hide that. And a lot of people put on, especially attorneys, they put on a role of this, but I didn't want to do that anymore. And a lot of people made the mistake of, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. And, I'm a shark and I'm a bulldog when I need to be, but I try to do it in the most polite and graceful way possible because that is now who I am at my core. I am yogic. I follow a yogic lifestyle and I love it. I think it's really great. And I think that I do better for my clients because I'm very mindful of their time. I'm mindful of their money. I'm not just going to give people big bills. I'm very careful on how I do everything now. And that has made me very intentional and purposeful. And I just love how it felt. So a lot of what I write in my book in the first few chapters is very personal and it's about that journey on how everybody needs to be more mindful and purposeful and intentional on what they're doing in their job.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You don't see attorneys bringing that into their practice. And what I want to also back up on is you highlighted another point that we always, especially as Americans, because other countries, they add in like siesta, right? Like they know how to slow down. But in America, we hustle. And so as women, we're strong, but it's a lot. Our body takes a toll. And like you said, like, it's not unusual. Like, why? If you look at it, like, and I can relate too, right? Like going through training, you also want to be a mom, you want to make it through, but you also want to heal, but you want to heal faster, but also not be behind and be like at the top of your game, at the top of your class. And, the thing is, if you slow down and you're intentional, as you and I already like believe and practice, you do more. And your body will not hold that score, that toll that shows up later and affects the quality of life. So I think that's amazing that you listened, you followed your calling, and then you're putting it into the way you practice.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that why it's so important is because when you're doing what you love, you become more of who you are, of your best qualities. And then it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. So when you're hustling and you're harried and you're doing too much, you're missing things. You have to go back and redo things. When you're intentional, you're actually probably getting all the same work done, but you're not stressing about it. And then you're not doing things that take you off your path. Because when you're in that, and I know you're probably like this too, because we're both high achievers. When you're doing that, then everything becomes, don't worry, I'll just do it myself. It's easier to do it myself. So then you're doing things that you don't need to do because you're just in that control mode. So when you let go a little bit, you actually can hold on to a lot more. And then you're doing the important things and you're doing them in a sane way from a place of strategy instead of a place of emotion. So they're much easier to complete. And then you have time left over to go do whatever the heck you want. So, I mean, it just makes so much more sense. You can handle so much more. So it's kind of like you're quantum jumping all the time. Like you just kind of picture yourself getting through all the tasks while you're doing them. And then boom, all of a sudden they're just magically done.
Oh my gosh. So do you gather, random question on that, do you gather other attorneys if they need to just kind of chill out, bring that cortisol stress response down? Do you ever tell them, hey, let's go take a deep breath. Let's go do some yoga?
Yeah, I do. I actually spoke to attorneys at the Florida bar last October on mindfulness and attorneys, and it was well received by all of the women. The men, I guess this space, men aren't as comfortable in this space as women are, which is a shame because the men need it more. But it was just amazing. There was like 200 people in the room and I loved it. And I talked about yoga and breathing and, Kundalini meditation, which is like the best. Now, there's a whole new movement of Kundalini yoga that I have a large problem with. I don't like how it's become like too sexual. It's all about sexuality. And you see the girls, in their thongs bending over doing yoga. That is, to me, that is like, it's just not kind to do to yoga. Yoga is very sacred to me. But so when I say that, I just want people to understand that like Kundalini meditation, it's very sacred. And it's not about the stuff that you see on Instagram. That is not real yoga. So, but that to me is probably the one thing that men would benefit from the most because it does lower your heart rate. It lowers your blood pressure. I mean, the physiological benefits from it alone are they're incredible. And in tandem with the psychological benefits, it just makes everybody a better person.
Right. And like you said, sometimes men, especially high-strung men, they need it. And you are seeing it, like you said, some of it is mainstream, yes, but that's why we gotta clarify what's real and what's, a little bit mainstream and what yoga and mindfulness is. But, those that are becoming more aware and that are already known and what to do, they know the benefits of it, but now more and more is coming forward. I mean, look at like mental illness, look at chronic disease, right? So slowly men are slowly becoming aware. And some of the classes, I'm sure whenever you see there are more professional men coming forward, and then you look at like professional men, you look at like athletes, they, as hard as they train, Navy SEALs, like as hard as they train, I think it's beautiful that they actually incorporate mindfulness and yoga. It's beautiful.
It's so good. And just from a flexibility standpoint, like men, they're not as flexible as women. And when they're doing sports, yoga is probably the best thing for runners, for football players. It teaches you grace, body awareness. It tightens up your core, and balance is the number one. And you know this, you're a doctor, but balance is like one of the most important things as we get older. And it gives you great balance. Like when I do the little balance test, I have perfect balance, which is why I can stand on one foot for like 2 hours. I can stand on my head for 2 hours. Like I'm on my head every day.
I love that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's good for like horseback riding because I'm a rider. So it helps with balance with that. And if the horse tries to throw me, I just like, woo, I just go with it. You know
how you practice your fall.
Exactly. I've done it. I have the scars to prove it.
Oh my God. I appreciate how much of a well-rounded wellness, like holistic, truly practicing it and being in nature, because that is what is the key to longevity, but also being more efficient and effective in our careers. I want to segue into, of course, like your entrepreneurial side and of course your book, but you mentioned there are 3 pillars of being entrepreneurial. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So the first pillar is you, and that is your personal side of yourself. The second one is your family and the attention you have to give to them. And the third one is your entrepreneurial pursuits. Those are probably, when you're an entrepreneur, as you know, those usually kind of take front seat at all times. And learning how to balance all of them, and I wrote a post about this not that long ago, like balance is crap. Forget the balance. You're never going to balance. One day one's going to be more important than the other. And you just have to learn how to kind of flow between those 3 pillars and give the attention where it's needed and not beat yourself up if you have to cancel plans or you have to do something because your family needs you. So you have to, maybe there's a prospect that you wanted to go have lunch with, but your kid needs you. You have to decide, which is the most important thing on a daily basis. You can't pick your day like, oh, today it's family day and tomorrow it's this day. You have to be fluid and you have to give yourself grace. And that's the most important lesson that I think I learned was learning how to give myself grace and not feeling guilty all the time because I wasn't doing something. And once I really started practicing self-forgiveness, I really became empowered in every area. And then I learned how to kind of flow between the pillars where now nobody really notices that I'm only giving 50% here or 25% there because I'm present. And sometimes just your presence when you're calm about it is enough. If you're present and you're, being a jerk because you're all stressed out, then you may as well have just not done anything. So if you can't live in that moment and be present for that thing, then don't bother. So just learning how to be present for where it's needed and then just forgetting about the other thing. Like actually just today, I had a big trip planned for September, and now I make plans with my friends with a disclaimer. Yes, I'm coming. I bought the plane ticket, but be prepared because there are other things going on that might make me cancel, and it would have to be on fire. But if I cancel, don't be mad at me because I found myself having to cancel a lot of things lately, and it's just the way it is right now. And they're my friends and they love me. And if they get mad at me, they can get mad at me, but they still have to love me. So, but that has to be okay. And you have to be okay with that. And you also have to be okay with loving what you are doing so much that nothing else seems like more fun than staying home on Friday night and working on your dream. And when you are doing that and you're committed and you're present, everything is fine. It's just really all about forgetting balance exists because there's no such thing. You can't do 33.3% for each one every day. Some days we're going to do 100% here and negative 10% over there. But I'm just always really trying to think of ways to help people through that guilt that they experience, especially where children are involved. So, your kid's at home and you really want to spend time with them. You only need to spend 15 minutes a day, like intensely connected to your child to make them feel like loved and wanted. And after 15 minutes, go do what you got to do and tell them, I love you. Let's do this. Let's play this game. And then I've got to go do some work. They're going to forget about it 5 minutes after you're gone because they had that connection with you. So it's all about like life hacks and tweaks on how to really be present in that moment for each one. I learned that studying in law school with 2 kids.
And that's important, especially the parent guilt, right? Or the other guilt of be enough for all, but it goes back to, like you said, giving yourself grace and being intentional. And simple things. You don't need to plan out a lot just to do that.
Right.
Simple tricks. I love that. Yeah.
When my kids were really little, my parents, thank God, they moved into my neighborhood so they could watch the kids while I went to school. And the one thing that I never went back on when they were little was family dinner. Every night there was family dinner from the time they were old enough to hold their head up in the high chair till they graduated high school. That was like the one thing, like, you're going to be present. You're going to look me in the eye. We're going to talk. We're going to be here. And that's a very intentional thing. And no phones, no TV, we're going to talk. And that became the one thing that I would never back down on. But, it's an hour. So it wasn't the whole day. So no matter what I had to put aside, I put aside for that, because the parent guilt was it was hard. I went to take the bar exam and I missed my son's 4th birthday party because I was taking the bar exam. And if I could ever, and I'd never left him overnight before, like that was the first time. And I was guilty for like 3 years.
That's too hard on yourself. Oh my goodness. But
yeah, it was hard.
I mean, imagine trying to focus on your exam when all you can think about is your kid.
It was hard. But I did, and I passed.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, it was hard. But, and that was another thing and this was before yoga really became a big part of my life. This was pre-yoga. This was like just me I was still always nature girl, been that way my entire life. But I was super intentional about when I was with them. So they had quality time with me every single day, no matter what. But not all day and not the whole day until there was like summer break. And then, honestly, they were so sick of me after day 3. They wanted to play with their friends. They wanted to play other things that didn't involve my face in their face. So, it all works out. And and with children, if they feel loved, they feel safe, and they feel treasured, everything's going to be fine. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good point to go back. Yeah. We're oftentimes too hard on ourselves on that.
Yes.
They're resilient, and as long as we give them those, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing too. A lot of times, like working moms, they want to kind of hold themselves back because of that guilt, right? But kids grow, and they should see a mom being happy and present when they are present and fulfilling their dreams. Because everyone grows older. What are you going to do when they leave the house, right? You don't
exactly.
That. So, no, I think that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
With your book, of course, coming out, give us a little sneak peek of what it entails.
So, here it is. I'm so excited.
Look at that.
And Richard Dolan wrote the forward in the book.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and he wrote nice stuff. He's such a nice man. I adore him. The book, it started out really, so I'm also an adjunct law professor, and I was teaching a class on how to open your own law firm, like to make lawyerpreneurs. And the book they gave us was so bad. It was so outdated. So I started writing chapters like, hey, this is about social media marketing compliance with the Florida Bar and the FTC and the FCC. And then after a while, I was like, wow, you know what? I have like a business manual. I should publish this. And then during COVID, I started adding more to it. And then after, right before I stopped working at my former job, I'm like, you know what? I need to incorporate some of myself in here. It can't just be this manual. I'm going to talk about how to bring it all together with mindfulness, mindset, evaluating the actual idea, like just so people understand, is the energy that I'm giving off being received the way that I'm intending people to receive it, or am I coming off a different way? So I did a whole, I think it's 3 or the first 5 chapters are more about your personality, mindfulness, intention, meditation. So it kind of gets people ready so they can get set, so they can launch. And that was where I came up with the title of the book. And it was really, really a fun journey to write those last 5 chapters, because that's really like where I really came out. My personality came out. And I think it'll really help people when they do those first few chapters to kind of gauge Like, what kind of worker am I? What's my personality type? Because a lot of people become entrepreneurs, they quit their job, they're working at home, and then the next thing you know, they're bed rotting and they're not the type of person that they're not, self-disciplined. Or it's just really important to know what kind of person you are. Some people need to go to an office. Like, it just depends on how you work. So I really wanted this book to get people ready to see if they're even able to be an entrepreneur. Like, can you handle this? Because this is all consuming. Like, this will consume you and you're on your own. No one's coming to save you. You're saving yourself.
Yeah. So good to have that manual to help. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a great conversation, and I can't believe it's coming to an end, but how can people find you?
So if you go to my website, all my information is there. It's www.courtneyjaredbannan.com. That's how you spell my name. And everything's there. You can actually set a time to talk to me using my calendar. You can call me. You can email me. All of my contact information is there. Or you can find me on Instagram. And my handle is Courtney Jared Bannan Esquire, all spelled out.
Wonderful. And we'll put that in the show notes. So let's leave it on let's see. What is your most favorite way to de-stress? Because you said you love nature and you love yoga and meditation, but if you had to pick one, what is your favorite go-to?
My favorite go-to is cycling through the Everglades and taking pictures of all the alligators, which I do in the winter. That's where I am every weekend.
I mean, you're not deathly scared of them trying to eat you?
No. When I'm cycling, not so much, but I also go hiking in Big Cypress Reserve, and there's a lot of snakes and a lot of like wild loose gators in there. That can be a little daunting, but I kind of like being scared. It's foolish. I'm stupid. If my mother hears this, she's going to kill me, but I kind of like that feeling. And it's like being in the wild. I love adventure, and I will go anywhere, anytime. You tell me like you want to go into anywhere, I'm going to go. Like, drop me in the jungle and I'm ready to go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I didn't see that coming. That's me. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for taking time to talk to me, and I can't wait to see you soon.
I know.
Maybe this episode may come out before, but we are going to be at this amazing event, August 22nd, Montage, Igniting Humanity Through Health and Wellness. And Courtney is going to be one of the speakers, and she's bringing books.
Yes.
So be sure to. Yes, I love that. And be sure to buy your ticket, and be sure to follow Courtney and reach out. So thank you so much. I hope you have such an amazing and fulfilling, loving day.
Oh, you too. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. This was wonderful.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, share with your friends and family, and of course, subscribe. Thank you so much for your support.